gosh. Okay. Round 2. And there we go again with my crappy transition. Okay, so for those of you guys who joined us like 15 minutes ago, my iMac decided to poop out. And so, I have to restart it and do all this other stuff. So now I have to go ahead and repeat myself. But first, let me check in with my co-host, Daniel Bostic, D.E. Bostic on Twitter. What's up, Dan?
I'm here. We are alive and kicking.
Yeah, I almost decided to put on my angry glasses or something, but it is what it is. So anyway, 2 weeks ago we did a broadcast. Last week I was in Los Angeles and San Francisco. I met with Jack Dorsey of Twitter. I met with Cravon of Periscope. I met with some people who are in the development world of Bitcoin Cash, Definity, met some ICO people, talked and spoke with one of the lead developers at Ripple. So I was out there networking, getting information from my subscribers over at Patreon, patreon.com/Ali Alexander. And I had a lot of fun, and you had to do Periscope alone last week, but here we are, reunited, and it feels
so good. So excited.
Yeah, but no, 2 weeks ago, when we were looking at the high 6,000s to mid 6,000s, I said this is probably where the bleeding is going to stop for now. And I totally called that. Didn't I?
Literally no one is surprised.
No one's surprised. So got my stress ball now just to woosah.
He was literally just throwing it earlier.
Okay, so here's what I want to tell everybody. Let me sum this up in 5 minutes or less. We're not going to do any technical analysis, no charts. Let me tell you what the charts are saying. The charts are saying that we have to get our heads above 10,300. And, all the exchanges have different prices, but this is on Coinbase and GDAX. So we have to breathe there for a little while. Now, what we don't know, what no one knows who's charting is what does breathing mean? All we know is that if we can stay between 9, 7, and 13 for weeks, then we've developed a new support line. Right now, as you approach a line like this, it's called resistance. So one of two things could happen. Well, one of several things could happen. But it's likely that one of two things happen. We could hit 10,300 tonight, like right now. Bitcoin's at 10,169. And it seems to be really scared of 10,300. And it could bounce off and we could see 9.6. We could see 8.8. Things could get really ugly. Or it could do a slow decline. Or what we could see is that it hovers right here and it stays here for weeks. And that's what we want. We don't want to rush to 20. We don't want to rush to 17. We don't want to rush to 15. God's honest truth, we don't even want to hit 13 immediately. What we want to do is we just want to breathe. We want to expand. We want to contract. We want to expand. We want to contract. We're not overbought right now on the RSI. But what we are is we are totally moving again vertically too fast, and it makes it look like, I'll be honest, if I had to bet, I would bet that we still see decline. So if you bought when Ali said the bottom was here at 6.6, 6.7, and you were like, well, what's my exit? What's my play? Sell now and buy again at 13. You're like, well, Ali, I'll lose money. It's safe money. So if you wanted to take your profits now, now would be the time to take your profits. That's the trader mindset. If you have the investor mindset like I do, then it's roll tide. Whatever. Come win, lose, draw. We're not thinking about the next month. We're not thinking about the next 2 months. I'm really not even thinking about the next 6 months. But I can understand how that would make some people antsy. All I know is that Bitcoin will be higher at the end of this year than it ever was in 2018. I'm very confident, very bullish, putting my money where my mouth is on that. And that's where I think Bitcoin is. So again, you have two situations that are going to happen. We're going to hover in a zone that no one knows what hovering is. I'm telling you, nobody, no guy doing a chart right now can tell you how wide this zone's going to be, but it's going to be wide. or we're going to bounce off this, and then this is going to do this thing until we do settle around 6,000 something. And that would be tragic. It would be bad, but there is reason to believe that that may not happen. And a lot of that is because there was a lot of FUD. There was a lot of fake news from, India, South Korea, and China. I mean, the news, Reuters, and a bunch of other news outlets were reporting blatantly false things that have been factored into the current price. So if you're asking me, Bitcoin is undervalued right now. But this is about where I want to see it. If I had my dream case scenario, last year I said that Bitcoin would end the year when it was 1,000 or 1,500. I said that Bitcoin would end the year at 10,000. And so I think that I would love to be at 11,000. I'd love to be at 12,000. That doesn't scare me. Coming off of a high doesn't scare me. Being where Bitcoin is valued, that's what I want to see as somebody who's watching an emerging market. So, we're going to see, but Daniel, are you breathing a little easier now? Your family's not like, are you crazy? Are you mad? Are you seeing this dip? Are you breathing easier with Bitcoin kind of showing some fighting strength?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2018 is going to be huge, no matter how you cut it. And you're right. I mean, the next 6 months are really going to tell. I don't like to think in terms of even 3-month increments whenever I can. So I like to look out. And for me, I'm hodling. I don't have any plans. I was telling you something the other day. I was like, I wasn't planning to sell now anyway. So regardless of if the price was double what it was now or if it was half what it is now, I wasn't planning to sell anyway. So it's largely irrelevant.
Yeah, hugely, hugely, hugely irrelevant. And, what I'm excited about is building a community. I had one gentleman in LA, he owns a restaurant and he owns a coffee company. And he said, Ali, you're in Irvine, I want to meet you. So he's a fan of the show, a fan of my analysis. And he was already trading crypto. But he said, what convinced me, Ali, is on one of your broadcasts when you were saying it's not a currency and it's not a commodity, it's a community. And I'm glad that more people are getting on board with this concept of understanding emerging economies and emerging tech as how many users will you have? That will determine most of the price is how many users do you have? How many users does Facebook have? How many users does Twitter have? Now, I'm not saying judge Bitcoin like a startup. I'm not saying use metrics like that. I'm not talking about hash power, transaction speed. I really don't care about any of that. What I care about is how many people are adopting this and incorporating this into a percentage of their life. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to pay your bills with Bitcoin. I don't care if Bitcoin is cash, money, currency, or a commodity, or or gold, or the reserve of all other cryptos right now. All I care about is user adoption. Those other metrics tell me how much the pennies are worth. User adoption lets me know how many dollars Bitcoin is worth. And so far, my metrics, have proven safe, and they caused me not to panic. But I'll tell you, I was not breathing easy there, not because I was worried, but because everyone else is worried, and I became a therapist instead of an analyst. Did not like it at all.
I'll leave the therapist. Now there's a thought.
Yeah, there is a thought indeed. Lose my license thought. So, you guys click share. What we want to do is we want to be a little experimental tonight. We're going to encourage you guys to tweet something for us and for yourselves. What we want to do is we want to kill bad coins. We want to promote good tokens, and we want to give accurate, timely analysis so that you can do your own research. Do your own research. DYOR. So we're here to empower you. This is not investment advice. We're not financial advisors. We're not lawyers. We're not medical doctors. Don't take any of this as legal, medical, or investment advice. What we are people who are we're your hounds. We're sniffing out some information. We're kicking the tires. And we're telling you what we like and we don't like about various cryptos. This show is built around Crown. It's something that Daniel and I have been holding for a long time. Finally, we put in a proposal because it is a decentralized governing community saying, hey, we want to do some advocacy. We want to set aside some of our time to talk and vet this token And we tackled that in our introductory Periscope 2 weeks ago. And so, you could say that Crown is sponsoring this Periscope. But we're talking about Bitcoin. We do a Q&A at the end. And we want to get really experimental because it's really important that we develop community and a sense of standards for a lasting, stable crypto community. So here's one thing that I want you guys to do. I want to see Crown. This is an API token. It's not like a speculative coin. This isn't a pump and dump. We're not into that at all here. I want you guys to tweet Kucoin. So KUCOINCOM. That's their name. Kucoin.com. That's their Twitter handle. And let them know that you too have an interest in getting in on this. Because right now, you can only buy Crown on Barter Dex, which is decentralized and kind of convoluted. But we've done tutorials on that, thanks to Daniel. And you can buy it on Bittrex, but Bittrex is accepting new users. So if you're not on Bittrex yet, you're gonna miss the train leaving the station because now Crown has me. Now Crown has Daniel. We're meeting in Miami with the European-based team. It's very exciting what Crown's gonna be able to do. And what I need you guys to do is tweet. Somebody do a tweet in the Periscope chat room and then let everybody take a screenshot. So you don't have to leave the Periscope right now. But what will be powerful is if you guys tweet them and say, yeah, I'm interested in good tokens being listed at Kucoin, not just speculative coins. Okay, so we're gonna talk more about that, and you'll see a tweet from my account, you'll see a tweet from Daniel's account, and what we want you to do is not just retweet us, we want you to copy and paste, edit it yourself, etc., etc. So let me do some quick programming notes. You can visit crownblockchain.com if you want to sign up for a newsletter that Daniel and I run. We're going to put that on the screen right now. Crownblockchain.com. We will send you out, no, not Kucoin, the letter Q. I already said it, KU. It's one of the most popular exchanges in cryptocurrency right now. So anyway, go to crownblockchain.com if you want to get on a newsletter, because Daniel and I, when we break news, we're going to break it there fast. So if you have a trader mindset or an investment mindset, you want to go to crownblockchain.com. We are going to be giving updates to that audience. So even before we do Periscopes, even sometimes before it's on the official Crown Twitter channel, which you can find at Crown Platform. So we'll put that in the chat room too. But crownblockchain.com, we can't wait to get you guys up on that list. Also, subscribe to our podcast. So if you don't have time for Periscope, if Periscope is too buggy, if you need something to drive to work to, or etc., we do have a podcast. So our podcast is on chainca.st. So it's Chaincast, but just put a dot in between CA and ST. So Chaincast, and we'll put that in the chat room too. You can find us on Chaincast, and that's where we have our podcast that is different than the Periscope. So we're not just turning this into audio. We do an entirely different vibe, more informative version of what we talk about during the week, and that will be, I don't know how often we're doing it, but anyway, we're doing the podcast. That will be on iTunes, readily available, and all kinds of other stuff. So it has been a massive, that link is not live yet. So wait, you want to tell that to the audience?
Yeah, so so if you want to sign up for our podcast, probably most of you are on iTunes. If you're on iTunes, just go to the store, search for Chaincast in the store. We are up and running in the store last I checked. Apple's approval process is a little convoluted, shocking. But we are there. So go ahead and hit subscribe. You'll get notifications when new episodes are released. We're also going to be on the Google Play Store, Pocket Casts, pretty much anyone will be listed. So
yeah. So that's very exciting. Let me go ahead and get a retweet for myself. Bring some more people in. I hate that we had that first Periscope cut out on my end. Very tragic. Very, very tragic. Not good. Not good at all. So the state of the exchanges. So this is what's interesting is cryptocurrency is kind of going through this thing of centralization before true decentralization. And so we have some major players like Coinbase and that dictates most of the United States market. They can do something and tank the whole thing, which is not good. You have Bitfinex, which is a platform that I previously loved, but they kicked off all their U.S. customers, and there's a lot of controversy over Tether, and Tether's on other platforms too, but they have a deeper relationship with Bitfinex there that is causing a lot of controversy. And I have an article that's coming out very soon on Tether and Bitfinex, so you guys be watching my Twitter account. I'll publish that probably tomorrow. So twitter.com/ALI. I have a Tether article coming out. And then Binance, a lot of people love Binance because there's an aggressive affiliate program that rewards people. It was down for several days last week, I guess. I didn't really care, but a lot of people cared. But the CEO is a guy who really steers the ship right. But that's kind of the current play of exchanges. There's also Kucoin and stuff like that Daniel will get into. But what the world looks like in the future is probably more decentralized exchanges or ones that are inside of nodes. And I don't know what that looks like because Jason, who's in the chat room, I was sitting with him at his San Francisco home, and we were talking about a lot of things. We had a working lunch and went back to his house, whiteboarded a bunch of things. It was very awesome. But what Jason pointed out is there could be a serious problem in transaction times and syncing that stuff up. And I hadn't, for whatever reason, I hadn't really considered that before. I'm more of a project manager. I, do design and development, when I really have to, but try to leave that to the experts. I get to translate between clients and geeks, and very, very good at that. So that's going to be an interesting problem that we're going to have to solve, because if you asked me a week ago, I would have said decentralized exchanges by the end of the year, centralized exchanges go near extinct. And now I'm trying to think, well, how does that look if we're not syncing up data quick enough? And so that's going to be really interesting because price points matter and no one wants to see increased volatility. The volatility we have right now is a lot and people are living through it. I want to let you guys know this is the most volatile anything has ever been in human history, and that we're hanging tight is a testament to the belief of the promise of cryptocurrency. But if we introduce more volatility as we get more low information users adopting it, that is a recipe for a crash. Tether be turning into a scam is a recipe for a crash. There are things that could kill cryptocurrency, frankly, but it's not government regulation, and we'll talk about that on a future Periscope. But what are some new exchanges, Daniel, that are gaining some traction?
So probably the big one that's come out recently would be Robinhood, and they have a really successful stock trading app, super easy to use. They are supposedly, well, they've announced they're not going to do any fees for crypto trading, which is pretty huge. We'll see how that pans out. I think they come out March. I don't know. I feel like you're the big Robinhood guy. So that's probably the biggest one on the horizon. Kucoin, though, is really taken off a lot more than even I expected. They are quickly becoming one of the most popular exchanges. Super competitive referral program, extremely easy to use. Really, anyone who's even new to crypto would be able to use Kucoin without much trouble. So Kucoin's pretty impressive. They haven't had any major security issues yet, and that's a big deal, especially considering that they are continuing to get a lot more attention. So Kucoin is a big one. They are going to have to figure out how exactly to start vetting projects. I've noticed that they've got a bunch of solid projects on there, and then they've got some not so solid projects on there. And so I'm like, how does a project like Crown, that has so many real world use cases and is backed by the power of the Bitcoin network and all those things we talked about in the last Periscope, how is something like Crown not on there? So I think it'll be interesting to see how they position themselves and how they start addressing getting new tokens added to the platform. And that's something that a lot of these platforms are struggling with, is figuring out how do we select which tokens we're going to add to our exchange, and how do we sift through all these junk coins to find what's worth it.
And that's why I think that people need to stick with tokens, you pick one or two or three coins that you think are going to make it. You know, I have a couple of mine. Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash if I want to hedge against Bitcoin, Litecoin, and a couple of others that I won't talk about. But I'm namely investing in and trading tokens. You know, smart contract tokens, things that have actual utility, things that will be tied to use and companies and stuff like that. So I like BAT. Advertising is a great token, and the idea of turning impressions into verifiable data that can be vetted on a public ledger and reward it to people and then repurchase from the user, that's an economy that I like. Or Neo or Strat, in which smart contracts that are better built than Ethereum and actually immutable, serve as functions to create other companies and dApps and stuff like that. So that's what I'm telling everyone to do is, you don't want to be caught in a situation where Bitcoin does this and altcoins do that, or altcoins are doing this and then they reach bad news, or or a team member dies or anything like that. You really, really want to be careful. If you're messing around with penny stocks, you want to be very, very careful that it's a small portion of your portfolio. And, that's why I say I have the investor mindset and the investment mindset over the trader mindset. But I will tell you guys, when regulation comes to cryptocurrency, in as much as it is the first thing that they're trying to do is regulate behavior. It turns out that's not working so well. I think I read a report that said something like 0.29% of all crypto people reported on their U.S. taxes. That's going to be, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's something I read. It's going to be hilarious to see what ends up happening. But what's more important is that the exchanges is where the choke point is right now. So look for government to go to the exchanges and regulate exchanges first. And I'm gonna tell you guys something that the rest of other people won't tell you. Is that the exchanges right now, the U.S. exchanges want regulation. Okay? Gemini, Coinbase, the rest of them want, even Bittrex a little bit, but not so much, wants regulation because they're the big players in the field. And if they can be choked by the government and live, no one else can. And so it's a way to centralize it. It's why we have the NYSE and the NASDAQ. You have Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and you have over-the-counter type of stuff. But, that stuff isn't known, to the common folk who's trading. And so we're in a situation right now where I think that the government, by the end of this year or next year, is going to be putting more regulations on exchanges than ever before. I think that could have an interesting effect with adoption, because actually the people who are getting into crypto, I won't say late, but they're late in the early adoption phase, are okay with higher fees, more regulations, more disclosure of true identities. So what's funny is I think it's a threat, but not in the way that crypto thinks it's a threat, but I think that technology can supersede the threat. So much like carbon emissions were out of control in the 60s and the 70s, it wasn't government regulation that reduced our carbon emissions in this country by something like 90%. It was actually scrubbers and technology and innovation. And I think that decentralized exchanges, if they're hitting at the same time as government regulation on exchanges, will kill the bad guys and prop up the good guys. So don't tell the government. That's my secret plan on the cryptocurrency and how we survive. What the government's going to do, what exchanges are going to do, what the corporatists are going to do, and stuff like that. But Daniel, we want to talk more about pressuring Kucoin, because if you and I can get the 2,000, 3,000 people who are going to end up watching this to advocate for Crown, and we do it, we've done some powerful stuff on my Periscope with the U.S. government. If we can now do this with exchanges, we're really cooking with something, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And in a lot of ways, it's not like we just picked Kucoin out of thin air. It's really going to be a great fit for Crown. It's going to honestly be a solid fit for anyone who has invested in Crown because they listen to us. If we can get Crown on Kucoin, I think we're just beginning to see that we're going to start seeing what it's really capable of. Kucoin is a great exchange. It's really easy to use. It has a solid track record, as I said. It is mobile compatible, which is something that a lot of other exchanges don't have. There's no ID verification, which some of you more sketchy people in the chat may appreciate. There's no ID verification. It's really easy to get up and running, and they do have a solid selection of tokens now. Some I wish weren't on there, but in a lot of ways, Kucoin is really just a great fit for Crown and would enable us to bring in tons of new users and tons of new users. You were talking about, because adoption is king. Tons of new users means tons of growth for the project, tons of growth for investors and their portfolios. And that's exactly what we want to bring to the table. So I think in a lot of ways, Kucoin is really just a perfect fit for Crown.
Yeah, and one thing that we're going to do, we want you to tweet. I'm going to read these tweets. Sorry for the shaky cam. I'm going to read these tweets, but Daniel will put them in. He'll copy and paste some of these into the chat room. We want to make sure we have the right handle for Kucoin right there. But we want you guys to take screenshots or copy and paste and send these tweets. This is an experiment, y'all. This is an experiment to see if we can influence a new good exchange with a existing since 2014 token, an API token built on the blockchain. This isn't a pump and dump. Everyone knows I hate pump and dumps. I took down Verge. I took some serious shots at Ripple. I don't like schemes. I don't like scams either. So I'm gonna read these tweets to you. This is kind of, put it in your own words, but these are some suggestions. I want to see $CRW. So what you need to understand is that the $ either indicates that it's a stock or it's a cryptocurrency. So when you see that $ instead of a hashtag, it's because it's a cryptocurrency or a stock symbol. So I want to see $CRW at Crown Platform added so we can use your exchange at Kucoin.com. Or here's another tweet suggestion. Please add at Crown Platform $CRW. It's merged mine with $BTC and almost 5,000 masternodes worldwide. Or can't find at Crown Platform $CRW on your site? ? Can you please add it? ? Masternode project with real world hardware partners. Real world partners. And that's very, very important. Remember, we're talking about the features and the community and these type of things. Or you start off with the period and you go at Kucoin.com. Disappointed I don't see $CRW on your site. They're on Bittrex, but I'm a new user, so I need a new exchange to trade on. I would like to use your website at Crown Platform. Now here's some tips. Use GIFs, use emojis. It's fun. I don't even have to explain that. They're really, really fun. You wouldn't, and then retweets are good. Replies and tweets are better though. So don't just retweet me or Daniel. It's more important that they hear from you than they hear from somebody like me or Daniel, because you guys are the new people. And Daniel and I have been holding Crown for over a year, and we already have access to it. What we want to make sure is that as we talk about these catalysts, some things we can talk about publicly, some things we have to wait to talk about publicly, that you guys have the option after doing your own research and kicking the tires to say, hey, I want in on this project, or hey, I don't. But you don't have that option. A lot of people don't have that option yet, and we want to make sure. But two major things that are happening. One, Daniel is coming to DC, so I'll be in DC late next week. This time next week, I'll be in DC. Daniel will be in DC. We want to do a video. We want to do a Periscope talking about government regulation there in the nation's capital, really the world's capital. It's not New York. And we'll be talking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and Crown and regulation. What happens when a project is started in Europe and has a U.S. base, or China has a U.S. base. What role does the SEC play in altcoins? We'll talk about that. What's the legal requirement for a token versus a commodity or a security? So we'll talk about all that while we're in DC. I'm very, very excited about that. And then we have a Miami conference. So right after DC, we're both headed to Miami. And if you're in Miami, if you're in the area, we want to meet you. It's March 3rd. You want to tell them a little bit about what we're doing in Miami?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be the largest gathering of, from what I understand, the largest gathering of the Crown team, of fans, of actual developers on the platform, of marketing people. Everyone who's anyone related to Crown, at least most of them, are going to be in Miami all at one place. We're going over some big things that are happening. We have some media there. Ali and I are going to be there, as he said. They're going to be going through use cases, going to be talking about the future of the platform. They're going to be talking about new features that are being rolled out that are going to have real world implications on not only the price, but also the direction that things head. It's going to be a pretty big deal. And actually, we've gotten a hold of the agenda, and I don't think I can share all of it, and I don't want to, you know, mess with anyone here, but basically, I'm looking at the public part of this, and we're going to talk about the state of Crown updates. We're going to get updates from developers on how far they're coming into integrating their products onto Crown's blockchain. And we're going to we're going to chart an overall course for the community. And it is like Ali said, it's first and foremost a community. And that's what this conference is about. It's about building that community. It's about making those real world connections with people that you may only know online. It's going to be awesome. So I'm really excited.
Very, very excited. So what we want to do is we want to actually move a Q&A over to tomorrow. So we'll do a general Q&A on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and Crown tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to let Daniel close us out because it is getting late and there are conference calls to jump onto.
Conference calls for you. It's 10:30 p.m. here, so I'm like, I think I'm gonna hit the sack. So yeah, we're gonna have a Q&A tomorrow. We're also gonna look to have a podcast update pushed out tomorrow. So please go ahead, go to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you are. It's Chaincast, all one word. It's ChaincAst. Go ahead and go there, hit subscribe. Make sure you get those updates. If you can't always watch the Periscope, that's like the perfect way because you can throw it on your phone. You can listen at work. You can listen on the way to work, whatever you want. Go tweet Kucoin. That's a really big deal. And for those of you that are invested in Crown, this is probably the single biggest thing you can do right now.
Absolutely.
To further your investment and to further the Crown network is tweet Kucoin. So I posted a tweet on my Twitter. You can look at it to see kind of a format of how to word it. You can watch the replay and look at the stuff that Ali talked about. So go tweet them. You can tweet them multiple times. You don't just retweet. You want to actually have
a conversation. Something. Twitter's about a conversation. It's about authentic identities and people having a conversation, exchanging ideas, the marketplace of ideas. Don't be scammy.
Yep, absolutely. So also, if you guys are, as he said, going to be in DC or Miami, shoot us a message on Twitter. Let us know. And we would love to meet up with you. Let's chat crypto. We can chat politics, whatever you want. So be sure and hit us up. You can actually hit up my email directly if that's something that you guys want. It's Daniel at Systra, CYSTRA.com. That's just my company. But it's Daniel at Systra.com. Shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm going to be in DC. I want to hang out with you guys. I want to talk some crypto. I'm going to be in Miami. Can you get me to the Crown Conference? If you guys want to get into the Crown Conference, let us know and we can try and make that happen for you. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so this was an exciting Periscope about cryptocurrency. Watch it all the way through. If you came in late, share it with other people. We're very passionate about the liberation of everybody outside the 1% and the freedom and the idea that we can determine our own monetary and fiscal policies a little bit through cryptocurrency. And I think that that's what the promise of crypto is for me. And, projects like Crown that function instead of speculative securities as API tokens where developers can communicate and build applications that affect consumers inside of an ecosystem that is not tied down by the giant corporations or a malicious government is exciting to me. This is freedom. And thanks for being here, Daniel. Thank you, audience, for being here. And I am so glad to be home for a couple of days. And then it's DC, and then it's Miami. We can't wait to meet you guys.
Yeah.